Hi, I'm Bjorn, and as you can see, we're back at the raft. You know what that means. We're doing more Thunderbolts. This time it's Thunderbolts 2, Act 1. That's going to get really confusing, but you know what? I'm not going to change it. Just some quick notes before we begin. Hey, I have a Discord. If you like this stuff or want to do your own writing, come in there. I'll give you feedback if you want it. I'm always there, so, you know, come join. Link is in the description. Number 2, I didn't bring this up in the intro bit because I forgot about it. But I want to make this movie R. The MCU has started to do R stuff. They're doing TVMA, they're doing some R stuff, and I just really thought the script would benefit from being R. So you know what? We're doing it. To hell with it. It's R. And, you know, if that bothers you because you're an MCU purist and you have to have that crappy PG-13 MCU vibe, this is not going to be for you, I guess. I don't know. I just thought violence and some darker themes would warrant this being R and having it work within the balance of Thunderbolts. So, I'm going to make this movie R. I'm not going to waste too much more of your time. Let's just get right into the script.
We're going to open on a shot of a sketchy looking apartment building. It's run down and dirty. The camera slowly moves through a window as we see two kids watching TV. We see footage of the Battle of New York playing. The Avengers stop the alien invaders and save the day. We see text on screen that says, "The Philippines, 2012. The two kids watch the news footage with excitement in their eyes. They've never seen anything like this before. One of them, an older boy, who's maybe 11, is drawing. He shows the crown picture he drew to his little sister, who's sitting with him. He says, "If I was a superhero, I'd look like this." He shows his sister the drawing. It's a man in a yellow suit with a cape. It's supposed to be the original Sentry costume, just like, you know, drawn by a child. This dialogue would be written in Filipino. I forget what you call it. It's a different name than that, but whatever. It will be written in the Philippine language. So anytime I'm in a foreign country and a character is speaking to someone in a language they shouldn't use, they're going to be using their native languages. Just kind of keep that in the back of your minds. His sister, who's named Adriana, says, "What's he doing?" And Robert, who's the young boy, says, "He's blocking the bad guy's bullets." He says, "I won't let you hurt them." That's what Captain America would do. An older man enters the room. He looks fondly at the two kids. It's their father. He says, "Well, little superheroes, do you want to do a good deed?" They both nod their heads eagerly. The father says, "I need a loaf of bread from the store. I forgot to pick it up earlier and we need it for dinner. You guys think you can do that?" He hands them cash. The father then adds, "I added an extra $1 or $2 in there. Get yourself something nice." The kids grow excited. They take the money and head for the door. We see Robert fold up the picture of the superhero he drew and put it in his pocket. We see the two kids walking down the busy, crowded streets, heading for the grocery store. We see a van pull up next to them. Two men jump out and grab the children and throw them inside the van before they can do it. They scream for help, but quickly have towels pull over their faces so their screams are muffled. The screen begins to fade to black and grows blurry. There's something on the towel, some sort of drug. The screen goes entirely black and lingers for a moment. As the screen fades in, we see Robert on a metal floor. The scene lazily sways from side to side. They're on a boat. He slowly sits up. His vision is still blurry, and so the camera is too. There's someone else sitting next to him. It's his sister. She trembles with fear. There are other children too, maybe 50 of them, filling what is clearly a large shipping container. His sister asks, "Are you awake?" Her voice trembles. Robert says, "Adriana, where are we? What happened?" She says, "We're on a ship. I don't know anyone here." Robert asks, "A ship?" He's confused, and then understanding lights across his eyes. He realizes the sort of situation they're in. He's heard stories of this. His sister says, "I miss home. I'm scared, Robert." He says, "Don't worry. You saw the TV. The superheroes are going to come for us. The Avengers. They'll save us." Adriana says, "Really?" Robert says, Yes. I promise." She curls into a ball and begins to cry. She says, "I hope they come soon. I miss Dad." We see a time lapse of the kids moving around inside the container as it sails across the ocean. We see Robert look through a small crack in the middle. All he can see is the ocean. Eventually, we see the rocking of the ship slowly stop. It's docked. We hear men shouting and footsteps approaching the container door. It opens, and two unknown men stand there, blocked by the blinding light. Adriana yells, "It's the heroes!" She runs towards them before Robert can catch her. The guard at the front door catches her and throws her back into the container hard. She hits her head on the corner of a box. Blood runs down her face and she falls to the floor. The other kids all cower back, terrified. We see Robert run to his sister's side. She's still breathing. He rips off a part of his shirt and holds it to the wound. We can see blood soak into it. We see him look up at the guards with hate. Pure, unfiltered hate. The guards round up the kids and force them in the trucks. We see the trucks eventually pull into a warehouse. The kids are unloaded and forced into what are essentially large dog cages. We're going to cut to later. We see Robert and his sister sitting together. He's tied a makeshift bandage made from his clothes to the top of her head. His clothes are now tattered and dirty. Adriana says, "When are the heroes going to come?" She's terrified. Robert says, "Soon. I'm sure they're looking for us now. And when they find us, they're going to beat up these bad guys and get us home. Home to Dad." We hear a door open in the distance, and footsteps growing closer to the cage. We see all the children in the cages cower back. Some begin to sob and cry. Someone's coming. Someone they're afraid of. 3 men stop in front of the cage containing Robert and his sister. A voice speaks in English. I'm going to call this guy Locust Leader. The name of this gang doing these bad things, I can't say because of YouTube, is called Locust. So this guy will be referred to as Locust Leader for the rest of the script. He says, "Take the girl. Leave the boy. Someone is interested in her." A cruel smile corks up across his face. A large man opens the cage door and grabs Ariana and starts to drag her out. She screams for her brother and tries to get back to him. Robert rushes forward. He says, "Don't take her!" He tries smacking the man over and over again on the hand, but he doesn't even react. Then Robert bites into the flesh of his hand holding the sister. We see blood well. The guard says, "Little shit!" He backhands Robert, sending him to the floor. The camera follows him and grows blurry. We see them dragging away his sister as they shut the cage door again. Blood runs down his face, and Robert sobs. He promised to keep her safe. Everything fades to black. We see him open his eyes again. It's clear some time has passed. Quite a bit of time. Robert looks older, dirtier. His face is gaunt, and his bones skinny. Outside his cage, a woman in a butterfly mask studies him. Next to her is Locust Leader. Robert's eyes grow wild. He snarls and rushes at the cage entrance. He attacks and lashes out, trying to claw at the people outside the cage. One of the traffickers sticks him with a stun baton. Robert climbs backwards to the back of the cage. The power broker, the woman in the butterfly mask obviously, looks at him and tilts her head. She says, "This one." Locust member says, "Are you sure? He's wild. We have many more that are more docile." Power broker says, "I don't want a docile subject. We need fury for a successful test. This one is perfect. Perhaps he will succeed where the others have failed." The Locust man nods and opens the cage. Robert backs up to the back wall of the cage, pinned in, terrified, unsure of what to do. The power broker asks the Locust Leader in English, "Where is he from originally?" Locust Leader replies, "The Philippines, I believe." Power broker nods. She adjusts a setting on her mask, and when she speaks, it's in Filipino, a robotic voice, one that's being translated from her words. She says, "I have come to help you. I will take you to a better place. Come. I want to save you from these men." She holds out her hand. Robert cautiously studies it, unsure of what to do, then takes it. What does he have to lose? She helps him out of the cage, then walks him out of the building. We're going to cut to the power broker's lab. We see Robert sitting in a medical examination room. Power broker walks in. Her mask still speaks to him in Filipino. "You hate them, don't you? The men who took you. You want to destroy them. I see it in your eyes." Robert snarls, "They took my sister. They hurt her." We hear the words translated in Power Broker's ear. "What if I could give you the power to hurt them? Power unlike anything you could imagine. What if I could make you into a superhero?" Robert says, "Can you?" Power Broker says, "I can, but it's not without risk. There is a chance you could die. It is small but present. However, with the power I could give you, you could tear them apart." Robert says, "If I do it, could you find my sister? Help her, please, even if I die. She was taken too, and I'm worried she could be hurt. Or worse." Power Broker says, "That is the very reason I do what I do. I care for you. I will help your sister. I want to help all the children like you. Someone has to." We see time pass. Robert is being strapped to a table. Yellow vials of serum are hooked into needles on an injector device, similar to the one we see used in Captain America. Robert doesn't even look afraid. Hate is driving him forward. Fear is gone from his mind. The camera pans out until we're out of the room. We see Power Broker and her lead scientist from the first movie studying the boy hooked to the machine. The scientist says, "It's not too late to call off the test. We could give him one of the more functional powers. Project Sentry has failed 33 times. That's 33 dead kids." Power Broker says, "We have to get Project Sentry up and running. Think about it. If we could have a breakthrough, Sentry could be worth more than fucking vibranium. This serum would make the perfect superhuman." Scientist says, "If it'll ever work. It's a messy cocktail with 10 different powers. We've only ever succeeded in getting 2 in a single subject before. This is pushing the bounds of possibility." Power Broker says, "And it only needs to work once. I don't care how many kids I have to burn through to get it. Think of the good it could do. It could make the world a better place. And the money. You would be wealthier than you can imagine." She's trying to appeal to the scientist's wants, his needs. He says, "I don't know. What if it never works?" Power Broker says, "Then we keep trying. Keep changing the formula. If you're having second thoughts, you can step away. I promise I won't stop you. But know the research will continue without you. Without your expertise, I imagine more children would die." The scientist shakes his head. "You're insane." Power Broker says, "No, not insane. Just driven. I know what I want. Press the fucking button." The scientist's hands linger over the button. Should he do it? There's a chance he's going to kill this child. Finally, he gives in. He presses it. We see the serum lower down and inject into Robert. He screams in pain as the serum rocks through his body. We see his veins turn yellow. His eyes begin to glow a bright yellow. Suddenly, laser beams launch from them and cut a hole through the ceiling. He screams as his muscles begin to grow larger. He breaks through one of the metal harnesses holding him down and begins to shake. He's seizing. Power Broker says, "That's new." The scientist says his heart rate is through the roof, but he isn't flatlining. This could be it. We see Robert begin to grow taller. His bones break and re-knit. His muscles are large now, as if he's been working out his whole life or using steroids. His hair turns from black to a bright golden blonde. He breaks through his last metal harness with a scream. He begins to levitate, floating above the table. Suddenly, he passes out and falls to the ground. Power Broker asks, "Is he?" The scientist says, "He's stable. More than that. He's exceeding our expectations. Everything here, his vitals, they're amazing. I think this could be the success you were looking for." Power Broker says, "We have to test it." We see them approach him unconscious on the table. Power Broker pulls up a small scalpel from the table and tries to cut Robert. The knife strikes his skin and breaks. It doesn't even leave a mark. The scientist says, "A success. Even the sample we took from Luke Cage. Invulnerable skin, flight capabilities, ocular heat manipulation, super strength." Power Broker says, "He's perfect. We need more tests. If we finally have a Sable serum, we need to find out. I've tracked down the sister. They should have certain genetic similarities. We'll try it on her today. Congratulations, Doctor. I'll wait here for him to wake up. I'll need him. Continue your work. Test the sister." We see time pass as the broker watches Sentry sleep. Eventually, the scientists return. He's grimacing. He says, "We tested the sister like you asked." The broker says, "And?" Scientist says, "A failure, I'm afraid. She showed no signs of developing powers. There were other complications of a more permanent nature. She flatlined on the table, and we managed to get her into a coma. We're trying to revive her, but it's unlikely. She shows no sign of having powers, so we're going to pull the plug." The broker says, "How disappointing. The boy will be upset, of course, but I think I can use that. We'll move to plan B then. I'm sure I can get him to see reason. Leave me now. Find more test subjects. Test it more. We need to figure out what went wrong." Scientist says, "As you say." He makes a note on his device and then leaves. Through the window, we can see Sentry is now awake. Power Broker smiles and enters the room. Sentry asks, "My sister, is she okay?" The broker says, "We found her. But we were too late to save her. She was already dead. Long dead. I'm sorry." Sentry says, "No, that can't be. She can't be dead. I promised her I was going to keep her safe." He begins to sob, then he screams and yells. He smashes a fist straight through a concrete wall. It shatters beneath him as if it was nothing but styrofoam. Sentry says, "What did we do to them? Why would they hurt her?" He fires his laser vision in fury into a television across the room. It melts. He screams again. Power Broker simply stares at him. She doesn't even react. They are uncaring, vile people, she says. She stops and thinks carefully, then says, they are a blight on this world. I know I could never bring her back to you, but I can give you something else. She hands him a data pad. On it, we see satellite images of a warehouse. The men who took you belong to an organization called Locus. This is their headquarters, and where they keep the children they traffic. Children like you and your sister. I'm just a woman. I have no powers beyond my mind, but I see a world better than this, and I want to create it. What I need is a sentry, someone strong enough to fight by my side to help me create a better world. If I were to find him, my sentry's first mission would be to kill these men and free their captives. I want you to be my sentry, Robert. In exchange, I offer you revenge, and I offer you the wealth and power to make the world a better place. Sentry looks down at the satellite images and wipes away his tears. He says, I'll do it. I'll kill them all. Power Broker holds out a hand and Sentry shakes it. She leaves the room. We see Sentry pull out a picture from his pocket. It's a drawing of a yellow-suited superhero, the one he made for his sister. He holds it to his heart. A vow. He's going to make the world a better place. We cut to the warehouse from earlier. We see Locust men walking past kids in cages. Lightning strikes in the distance. Its light illuminates the children cowering in the corners. We see the Locust leader. He taps his earpiece and says, Zoo, do a sweep of the outside. The broker is coming back tonight. She just called us. We need it to go well. She's one of our best customers. The grunt heads outside the building. It's raining now. He starts to circle the building. Lightning strikes again. In the flash of light, we see Sentry floating in the air behind the man. The light fades and he's plunged in the darkness. In that dark, 2 dots of light glow. A laser blast launches from Sentry's eyes and slices the guard in two. We cut back to the inside. We see another Locust guard touch his earpiece. Zoo, where are you? That perimeter check should have been done already. Report. From behind him, we hear a child's voice whisper in accented English. Dead. The 2 guards turn to see Sentry standing there. While still a child, he's extremely muscular. There's blood splatter on his face. His blonde hair is dripping wet. The fluorescent lights above flicker. The 2 guards turn and fire at him. The bullets simply bounce off his skin and fall to the floor. Sentry takes a step forward and grabs one of the guards by the throat. He squeezes, ripping the man's throat apart, decapitating him. The other guard turns to run. Sentry's eyes glow, and he takes the man's legs off with his laser sight. The guard screams and tries to crawl away as blood leaks from his legs. Sentry floats off the ground behind him. His eyes glow again, and laser bolts strike the guard in the back of the head, killing him. We see the children hide away in the corners of the cages. Sentry looks at them, then smiles as kindly as he can. He says, I'm here to save you. Hearing their language, many of the kids come to the entrance of the cages. Sentry unlocks them with his bare hands, smashing the locks out one by one. The children pour out and surround him. They hold his hands and cling to him. Their savior, one of their own, has come to save them. A superhero, like he promised. A door kicks open and a man with a gun exits. It's the Locust leader. He opens fire. Sentry rushes forward and catches the bullets on his chest. All the children cower in fear. He turns his eyes to the leader, the man who took his sister. He says, I won't let you hurt them. He levitates off the floor. We see the Locust leader desperately try to reload his gun. He's too slow. Sentry is on him in a second. He hits him in the face hard. We see his nose break and his teeth fall out. The man stumbles back and falls to the floor. Sentry rushes and lands on top of him. He hits him again and again until the leader's face is a mess of gore. We see Sentry covered in blood. He smiles. The screen fades to black, and we see text that says 16 years later. We fade in on a large, blonde man sitting in a noodle shop. It's a much older Robert. He eats at the counter. A TV in the corner is playing the news. We see a report about the Thunderbolts killing Power Broker. The man at the bar looks up and watches the TV. We see his hands begin to shake. He grabs the corner of the counter, and it crunches beneath his hands. He stands and leaves money. He leaves the restaurant. Under his breath, we can hear him murmur, Thunderbolts, with rage. Suddenly, the man flies into the air. We're going to smash cut to a kid playing with a toy Quinjet. He makes sound effects as he does it. We see John Walker watching his son with a fond smile on his face. His wife is sitting next to him. She holds his hand. John Walker says, You know, Henry, I fly those at work. His son lights up. Really? John Walker says, all the time. I'll take you on a ride sometime. Henry says, that would be awesome. I saw you on TV. You fought a guy who shot fire from his hands. You blocked it with your shield. John Walker smiles. He says, that I did. He wasn't as scary as he looked. Suddenly, the door to the hotel room opens and Speed Demon rushes in. He says, hi guys, Walker. They're on the way. 4 or 5 minutes out. John Walker says, all right, I'll be 2. Speed Demon vanishes in an instant, the door shutting. John turns to look at his family with somber eyes. He says, I gotta go, kiddo. His son says, already? John Walker says, yeah, I'm sorry. I wish I could stay longer. Henry says, it's okay. You're a superhero. You probably have to go fight another bad guy. John Walker says, yeah, that's it. Real big guy, too. You'll see it on TV. He turns to his wife and kisses her. Olivia, his wife, says, do you have to go? John Walker says, I wish I didn't. She asks, when does this end, John? John says, when kids like him are safe. I know I'm doing what's right. I'm just sorry you have to face the consequences like this. Speed Demon appears again. He taps a fake watch on his arm. Sorry, man, we're out of time. You gotta go. His wife looks at him and smiles and says, just be safe. John Walker says, I will. I love you. Both of you. He runs to Speed Demon, and they both disappear in a blur of motion. We see a SWAT team start to pull up on the hotel. They've come for Walker just too late. We cut to the inside of a Quinjet. U.S. Agent and Speed Demon enter it in a blur of motion. U.S. Agent shakes his head. They're getting faster every time. Dallas says, well, you are technically a wanted terrorist. I'd just say they're doing their job well. She's in a new outfit, matching the Vantage outfit from the comics. I really like the design of it. I'll flash it here for a second. I think it's really cool. The U.S. Agent says, too well. This is personal for Ross. He's focusing on us. Songbird says, well, you did threaten to kill him. U.S. Agent says, I guess I did. What do you have for me, Dallas? Dallas says, schematics, pulled right from the CIA database, courtesy of Ghost. We see Ghost sitting in one of the Quinjet chairs. She looks away. Dallas presses a button and a hologram of building schematics appear in the air. It's some kind of underground base or laboratory. U.S. Agent says, wow, this one's big. Speed Demon says, this is the biggest lab she had besides the tower. She used to talk about it. I knew she was hiding something here, just don't know what. Dallas says, it's also the last one. We clear this one off the map and we're free of the power broker. Songbird says, good riddance. U.S. Agent says, right. Dallas, run me through it. Dallas says, the building is a fortress, but we expected that. This lab appears to have the most armed guards of any of these. CIA documents estimate upwards of 60 to 70. Someone is still funding these guys, but we shut this one down and they're done. No more labs. This is their last bastion. 2 entrances, 2 teams. We'll meet heavy resistance, but I don't think it's anything we can't handle. We go in, we take any evidence we can find, we destroy the rest. U.S. Agent nods. Solid plan as always. Songbird, Speed Demon, you 2 take the west entrance here. Ghost, you're with me, and Dallas, we'll take the north entrance. Remember, any serum we find needs to be destroyed. I don't want to leave anything behind for unsavory hands, not even a drop. We're going to see the helicopter touch down to the jungle clearing, and the Thunderbolts exit it. It's been some time, you know, the helicopter flew here or whatever, off screen. We get the team-up shot. The title appears above it. It says, Thunderbolts, Legacy of Power. We're going to cut to the jungle. We see Dallas and U.S. Agent walking through the foliage. U.S. Agent says, so, Powers, how are you adjusting? Dallas says, well, actually, there's certainly an advantage in combat. U.S. Agent says, that they are. Any progress on a name? We are superheroes, after all. The gimmick is part of the charm. It makes the public want to trust us more. Dallas says, no luck. Any ideas? U.S. Agent says, you're barking up the wrong tree. You should try Speed Demon. He's good at that kind of stuff. Suddenly, Ghost appears, phasing through the trunk of a large tree. She carries a sword that's dripping with blood. Ghost says, patrol of 3 men ahead. One of them straggled behind, and I took him. U.S. Agent says, alright, let's get to work. We see them burst through the clearing. 3 armed men with machine guns are completely caught off guard. Dallas is carrying a metal staff. She twirls it and sticks it in the ground. She spins around and smashes her feet into the first man. It breaks his neck, killing him. We see U.S. Agent smash into one using his shield. The armed guard is sent flying into a tree. He's impaled on a branch. The last man turns and fires at Ghost. She phases and the bullets pass right through her. She flicks her sword out and impales him through the neck. She slashes sideways, nearly cutting his head off. He falls to the ground, bleeding from his neck. Dead. As I said, I'm going R. All the action is going to be like this. Pretty brutal. I think it fits the tone of this movie better. Dallas says, quickly, before they realize what's happening. We see them move towards a large concrete entrance to an underground lab. We cut to Speed Demon and Songbird. We see them approach a metal door in a different concrete bunker. We see some men defeated on the ground around them. They've already taken care of their guards. Songbird screams, ripping the door off the hinges. Guards are in the hall waiting for their attack. They hold up guns, preparing to fire. We see Speed Demon shoot forward at super speed. We see it in slow motion as he moves from guard to guard, hitting them in the face hard. Their teeth are knocked out. He turns around, still in super speed, and heads back towards Songbird. As he does, he hits the same guards again. When he reaches her, he stops running, and all the guards crumple to the floor. Songbird and Speed Demon enter the building. They reach an intersection. 4 more guards push in from the left side of the hall. Songbird turns towards them and screams. She amplifies the sound. Sound waves smash into the guards. Blood runs from their ears, noses, and eyes as they're thrown back down the hall. They don't get back up. 2 more guards rush in and open fire. Songbird forms a wall of hard light on instinct, catching the bullets. Speed Demon zips around the wall and punches one of the guards in the face. He's sent flying back. A fist of hard light is formed from the wall and slams into the last guard. Speed Demon sort of sarcastically brushes off his hands. He says, "Good work." Songbird says, "Likewise. I swear this gets easier every time." Speed Demon says, "We're too good for these chumps." We're gonna cut to the others. We see Dallas punch a guard. He crumples to the floor in a mess of broken bones. She spins her staff around and cracks another one over the head. She hits the last guard with the staff in the gut. He staggers back into US Agent, who slams him with his shield. US Agent turns and throws his shield off a wall. It slams off the wall and into another guard, and then bounces back to the wall again. It bounces off the wall once more time and knocks out a second guard, sort of like ping-ponging between them. The shield falls to the floor. We see Ghost stab a guard in the chest. She phases through him with her sword in her hand and kills another one. Suddenly she stops. In front of her we see another ghost. Then another one. They fill the hall in front of her everywhere, even where there should be people. She begins to phase out of control. We see echoes of ghosts splitting off her body in 100 different directions. They move in all different manner of way, flipping out, making like a really weird psychedelic visual. We hear random phrases and words being whispered from all around her. Eventually, many of them begin to synchronize into an echoing voice. "Danger! He's coming!" Another voice, slightly different pitched. "He killed us! He's coming! Look out! Sentry!" Another one says, "Sentry! Can't stop him! Too late!" You know, just sort of echoing all over. The words echo 100 times. Ghost screams in pain and reaches her hand out. All the other ghosts vanish. Her hand is inside a guard who's shooting at her. The bullets pass right through her. He looks down in horror as blood begins to leak from his mouth. Ghost pulls her hand back. It's covered in blood. She phased into him and destroyed his heart. Dallas looks at Ghost oddly. "Are you alright? You were screaming." Ghost says, "Fine, just I don't know what that was." We're gonna cut to Speed Demon and Songbird. We see Speed Demon and Songbird moving through a hall filled with dead guards. Speed Demon looks down and we see ants moving around on the floor. He raises an eyebrow and watches as the ants climb up the wall. The ants begin to move across the wall, spelling out the words, "Help me." Speed Demon says, "Hey, Songbird, are you seeing this too?" Songbird turns and looks at the wall as well. She spots the ants and frowns. Songbird says, "Yeah, I believe the ants are talking to us." Speed Demon says, "How do I help you?" Another group of ants climb up the wall and swarm together to make an arrow pointing down the hall. Songbird says, "This has been a really weird day." Speed Demon says, "You're telling me. Do we follow them?" Songbird says, "They need our help." Speed Demon nods. That's all he needed to hear. We follow them as they follow the ants. The arrow moves down the wall, guiding them until they reach a large laboratory room. 2 glass cases in the middle of the room contain an Ant-Man suit and a Wasp suit. They're the older ones from the original Ant-Man and the Wasp. You know, like the ones from, like, I think it's like the 60s or the 70s. We see the Ant-Man suit has been taken apart in certain parts. There are schematics on the wall analyzing the earpieces. They were trying to figure out how to communicate with insects. The whole back wall of the lab is filled with glass cages. Speed Demon zips up to them and looks inside. In one we see a hive of wasps. In the next one we see spider webs. We see a black widow clinging to the webs. In the back of the room there's a large metal door built into the concrete of the main wall. We see a sign in black and yellow lettering above the metal door. It says, "Do not open. Project Antlion can't break containment." Speed Demon says, "They're keeping bugs in here." Songbird says, "Why?" Speed Demon says, "I don't know, but it's probably not a coincidence that the ants led us here." The ants climb up on the metal door. They spell out, "In here, need help." Speed Demon says, "You think you can open this with your voice?" Songbird says, "Probably." She turns to the ants on the door. "This feels silly, but if you can hear me, move away from the door and cover your ears." The ants all clear away from the metal door, indicating they heard. Songbird gives Speed Demon a thumbs up He plugs his ears, and she screams. She amplifies the sound waves. They slam into the metal door, ripping it off its hinges and throwing it back into the adjacent wall. Red lights begin to flash in the room, and we hear sirens as the door is blown open. A voice comes over the intercom. Warning! Containment breach. Project Antlion has broken free. Warning, containment breach. There's a dust cloud kicked up by the destruction of the door. We hear ominous music play as the dust settles. We see a figure. It's a girl, roughly the same age as Songbird and Speed Demon, with long white unkempt hair. She's curled up in the corner of the small concrete cell. She stands uneasily to her feet and slowly steps out of the cell. She runs over to Speed Demon. He puts his arms up as if to guard off an attack from her. Instead of attacking him, she wraps him in a hug. She begins to sob. Thank you, thank you. She moves to Songbird and hugs her too. She's crying with joy. She's skinny and bony. She wears a simple white outfit. It looks almost like a prison uniform. The strangest thing about her is a pair of large insect wings folded along her back. They look like the ones from the Wasp uniform, only she's not wearing a costume. They're in her skin. She unwraps herself from one very confused Songbird. Speed Demon says, "Oh, well, it's no problem." Queen says, "You're superheroes, aren't you?" Songbird says, "Yes, we're the Thunderbolts." The girl nods. "That's good. That's good." She begins to stagger back towards the backside of the room where the terrariums are. She picks up a lamp from a desk and begins to smash it against the glass cages. She shatters tank after tank. We see insects begin to slowly climb out. Speed Demon says, "Hey, be careful, those are dangerous." Queen shakes her head. "No, they're my friends." She reaches out a hand and pulls up a black widow spider. It climbs around her, then sits on the top of her palm. She whispers something to it, then sets it back on the table. Swarms of wasps gather around her, and fire ants begin to pool across the table. All of the insects begin to move into vents in the ceiling. Songbird whispers, "She's one of the power brokers." Queen hears her, turns and says, "No, I'm not one of hers. She trapped me here. She did this to me." Queen moves aside her long white hair. We can see there's pieces of technology grafted into her skin. They're worked into her skull and likely connected to her brain in some way. She's basically a cyborg. Queen says, "I'm gonna kill them all for what they did. Those men, I hate them." Speed Demon shoots a nervous look at Songbird. Speed Demon says, "Who?" Queen says, "The men here. Her people. I already gave the order." We're gonna cut to the air vent as the song Paralyzer by 11 Finger begins to play. We see spiders clinging to the ceiling, moving quickly in all directions. Wasps fly in the air and ants swarm across the ground. We see them pour out of the vents. Two guards notice them. One of them quickly clicks his radio. "Project Antlion has broken containment. Code red." We see a wasp fly right into his eye and sting him. He screams. The wasps swarm him, stinging him all across his body. He tries to slap them away, but it's futile. There's too many of them. A second guard tries to run, but we see a black widow clawing up its neck. It's already onto him. It bites him. He cries and tries to slap it, but the spider deftly moves away, dodging the strike. It bites him again and again. We can see multiple spiders all across his body, biting him all over. He falls to the floor. Blood is running from his nose and he's foaming at the mouth. The alarm starts to go off in earnest. We see red flashing lights all through the halls. Two guards are trying to run for an exit. Ants begin to climb up their legs, stinging them all across their body. They scream and fall to the floor, trying to swat and roll at the ants. It's too late. They're covered head to toe in fire ants. They writhe in pain for a while, then stop. We see swarms of wasps attacking other guards, surrounding them and stinging them. They're about to move to the next when a bullet rips through the guard's head. One of the wasps turns its head. We see U.S. agent holding a pistol with his shield. We cut back to the room with Songbird and Speed Demon. Queen turns and looks at them. "The one with the shield. Is he with you?" Speed Demon says, "Yes, there should be 3 in total. 2 women and the shield guy." Queen says, "I see them. He just shot somebody. What kind of superheroes are you?" Songbird smiles. "The effective kind. We kill those who deserve it." Queen nods her head. She seems to approve. "Good. These do." We see the wasps move past U.S. Agent Dallas and Ghost without issue. They look confused at the unusual sight. The wasps turn the corner and attack a final guard. He screams as they surround him. We see Queen laugh maniacally. She begins to sway. A trickle of blood runs from her nose. She falls over and Speed Demon rushes forward using his super speed to catch her. She's completely unconscious. He picks her up and carries her easily. He whispers, "She's tiny. They were starving her." Songbird says, "Let's get her out of here." Speed Demon nods. He asks, "Can you finish up here?" She says, "Yeah, I'll destroy it all." Speed Demon nods. "All right." He speeds away carrying Queen. We see him quickly appear outside in the jungle. He keeps running through the forest at super speed until he reaches the clearing where the helicopter landed. He gently sets down Queen in the grass. We see her eyes slowly open. She looks towards the sky and gasps. She hasn't seen it in a long time, if she's ever seen it. She begins to cry with delight. She says, "I thought I was dreaming. Are you real?" Speed Demon nods. "Yeah, I'm real. I'm James, and you are?" She says, "I am the Queen." Speed Demon says, "Okay, yeah, do you have a real name?" She says, "I think I did once, but I can't remember it." Speed Demon says, "How long have you been down there?" She says, "As long as I can remember, since I was a little girl. I don't think I've ever seen the sky. I've heard about it, read about it. It's more beautiful than I was expecting." Speed Demon looks at her with horror. They've kept a child locked up in a room. She's never seen the outside world. Never been outside of a little concrete room. They made a monster. We're gonna cut to an apartment high-rise. Text on screen says Tokyo. We see an older Robert, aka Sentry, enter the apartment. He's muscular, large, just like we remember him. He's even more muscular than he was as a child. Basically, this guy is absolutely shredded. I don't know who you'd get to play him, but bulk the shit out of him. Make him look like Thor or something. He opens up the apartment door and enters it. He says, "Kiko, I'm home." He's speaking Japanese. A pregnant woman steps out from the kitchen to meet him. She pecks him on the lips and rubs his hand affectionately. Then she goes back to her work cooking. She asks, "How was it today?" Robert says, "Good, actually. I took down a large-scale Yakuza drug operation. Bad people. They got what they deserved." Kiko says, "That's good. Are you all right?" Robert says, "Of course. You know they can't hurt me. How about you?" She says, "Oh, you know, the same. The baby kicked today. I felt it." Sentry floats off the ground and rushes to her. He takes her hand. "It didn't hurt you, did it?" She says, "No, I'm fine." He looks relieved. She muses, "You think he's going to have your powers, don't you?" He shakes his head. "I don't know. It's a possibility. I hope it doesn't." She looks confused at that. "Why?" Robert says, "Because I want our child to have a normal life, like the one I never got to. I just want him to be happy." His wife squeezes his hand. He will be loved." Robert says, "I got a call today. My man, he found them. The Thunderbolts. They hit one of the power broker's old labs." Kiko says, "Oh, the ones who killed the power broker. You're going to go after them, aren't you?" Robert says, "I am. I had my man place a tracker on their airship. It won't take me long, but this is something I have to do. I'll be gone for a few days." Kiko says, "Please, Robert, be careful. They are dangerous people if they killed the broker." Robert says, "So am I. I'll be safe. I promise. Once this is done, I can finally move on. I can focus on being the best father I can. I do this to make the world safer for our son, like the broker would have wanted." He runs a loving hand across her body and smiles. He only has one task keeping him from his happiness. He has to kill the Thunderbolts, the ones who murdered the woman who raised him, the person who became his mother, the person who just wanted to make the world a better place. So, that's the end of the first act. I think you guys kind of get where the story is going. We've got Sentry, arguably a good person, a sympathetic villain who's had a very rough upbringing. Unfortunately for him, his worldview has been clouded by the power broker, someone who the Thunderbolts murdered, as I implied in my first video about this. Sentry will be the main antagonist going forward. We've also introduced some other side characters. The new character Queen, I think you guys kind of see where I'm going for with that. Her power is very, very cool and will only get more fun. As you can imagine, it's surprisingly powerful. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on here. The script only gets darker from here. The next act will be brutal. The action sequences will be a lot more violent than they were in the past movie because I am going for that R rating. I think the script is pretty good, and I'll have the next part out as soon as I can.
Wow, that was certainly something. A little darker than the last one, yeah? I spent a lot of this part going over Sentry's origin story, and I think that's because it's very relevant to understanding the next two parts. This was the chill before the thrill. The next two parts will be much more action-oriented. They will be, as I said in my little outro bit, darker and more brutal. So y'all can look forward to that. I'll try to get those out very soon. If you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe. It really helps the channel if you leave a comment below. Apparently that boosts the algorithm, but so if you like this movie, tell me what you thought below. If you didn't like it, rant at me below. It helps me either way. I'm benefiting from this situation, right? I win no matter what. If you think you know what's going to happen next, you take a wild swing at it with like a baseball bat and see if you're correct or not. Maybe I'll tell you. Who knows? This Friday, I'm going to be releasing my next TV show. We're going to start gearing up to produce content again. I was gone for a while, so I've got some stuff backlogged, finished and ready to be released. So we've got Fallout television show. First episode this Friday. So 2 videos this week, guys. Get excited. If you're looking for something else to watch right now, obviously I've got Suicide Squad here. You know, you can finish that and then jump to Justice League Dark. More DC stuff. If you've already seen Suicide Squad, I recommend Justice League Dark. I've also got Deadlands here, newly finished. It's done. Finito. So you guys can check that out. Alright, I will see y'all in the next one. I'm out of here.